Welcome to 5 Minutes for 5, where we will be reviewing topics for the AP exam. Today, we will be reviewing one of the most important topics, the Civil Rights Movement. So if you're ready to get your thinking caps on, then let's get to it. So to recap, we have to start all the way in the beginning, when Reconstruction ended. At this point, many federal troops started leaving the South, and when they left, many African American rights left with them as well. And this mainly occurred due to the enactment of Jim Crow laws. This was a system enacted in schools, hospitals, restaurants, buses, and even water fountains. This enacted a separate but equal policy, that everything was different from each other, but they were still the same amount of equality. This was a massive infringement on African American rights, and prevented them from getting the same treatment as other American citizens. These policies were made so much worse though in 1896, when Supreme Court gave its judgment on Plessy v. Ferguson that separate but equal was constitutional. Black schools and facilities were understaffed and underfunded, making them much worse than their white counterparts. In southern states, voting restrictions also became quite popular, with literacy tests, poll taxes, and much more implemented to remove the rights of Black Americans. And if the system wasn't terrifying enough, African Americans also faced many attacks on themselves, with the Ku Klux Klan running rampant. And this is what Black Americans had to face nearly every single day.
But Black Americans never stopped resisting. Two towering figures led the way with very different strategies. Booker T. Washington, founder of the Tuskegee Institute, argued that economic self-reliance and vocational training were the path forward. Building financial independence first, and then social equality would follow. W.E.B. Du Bois, however, sharply disagreed. He argued Black Americans needed to demand their full civil and political rights immediately. No waiting, no compromising. Du Bois helped co-found the NAACP in 1909, which became a powerhouse for legal challenges to segregation. Meanwhile, the Great Migration was quietly reshaping America. From 1910 to 1970, over 6 million Black Americans packed up and left the rural South for cities like Chicago, Detroit, New York, and Los Angeles. They were escaping Jim Crow terror and chasing factory jobs and better schools. This massive population shift created thriving Black urban communities like the Harlem Renaissance in the 1920s, which produced an explosion of Black art, music, and literature that changed American culture forever.
Now, in the 1950s, this is where the train for the Civil Rights Movement really started moving. And this was evident as in 1954, the Supreme Court handed down Brown v. Board of Education, which overruled Plessy v. Ferguson. It ruled that segregation in schools was unconstitutional, and it faced a major backlash. One of the major effects was Little Rock 9, which a school in Arkansas called Little Rock was to accept 9 Black students and face major backlash, only being able to go in because the National Guard was sent to help them. 1 year later, in Montgomery, Rosa Parks refused to give up her seat to a white man and ended up getting arrested. Rosa Parks' arrest sparked the 381-day Montgomery bus boycott, which was led by Martin Luther King Jr. Martin Luther King was a young Baptist minister who preached nonviolence, like that of Mahatma Gandhi. In 1960, Black college students started staging sit-ins, like that of the Woolworth lunch counter. In 1961, freedom riders also started gaining lots of attention, riding interstate buses in protests. Many of these civil rights activists were faced with bombings like that of the Birmingham bus bombing. In 1963, the tension was at an all-time high, and late in the year, Martin Luther King gave his I Have a Dream speech. This was a speech he gave at Washington, and it is the most influential speech in civil rights history. And this proved to be the turning point, as the pressure finally worked. In 1964, Lyndon B. Johnson signed the Civil Rights Act, which banned many forms of discrimination against people of color, sex, and origin. Then, subsequently, in 1965, LBJ passed the Voting Rights Act, which prevented uses of literacy tests and poll taxes. And after this, the civil rights movement was never the same.
But the movement didn't end in 1965. Many younger activists were frustrated. Legal victories weren't translating into real equality fast enough. Malcolm X and the Black Power movement pushed for Black pride, self-defense, and community control rather than integration. The Black Panther Party controlled Black neighborhoods and provided free breakfast programs for children. In April 1968, King was assassinated in Memphis. Cities across the country erupted in riots. Congress rushed to pass the Fair Housing Act, banning discrimination in housing. In 1992, the acquittal of officers caught on video beating Rodney King sparked 6 days of devastating riots in Los Angeles.
The civil rights movement still hasn't stopped even today, as Barack Obama, the first Black president, was appointed in 2008. So So, despite facing discrimination today, or
From Jim Crow to Brown v. Board, from the March on Washington to Black Lives Matter,
African Americans have never stopped fighting for their right to freedom. Now, thanks for watching, and catch you for the AP exam.